Hey guys, it's Kevin in my review for Tick, Tick, Boom. And this, of course, does center on the true story of Jonathan Larson, but it is way before he went on to make Rent. Instead, we focus on a Jonathan Larson that is feeling very unfulfilled in life. He's about to turn 30, and all his life he has dedicated to writing plays, but he's never really gotten his work out there, and so in fear of that, he decides that he's finally going to take that jump and try to get this play, Superbia, financed, and sort of the complications that he deals in doing so, while virtually everyone else in his life, ends up becoming successful, and really the pressure that he has in trying to live up to that. So Tick, Tick, Boom, I was so hyped for this movie. I mean, like I said, this has been such an amazing year when it comes to musicals overall. I think that we have not seen a year this good for movie musicals in quite a while. There's been not just in terms of the quality, but also we've just had such an onslaught of films to choose from. So many different types of musical films that we've gotten this year, and Tick, Tick, Boom seemed like it could be one of the most interesting yet. Not only was this property that I really didn't know all that much about going in, but also just the talent surrounding it, and of course the director and everything like that. This really seemed like it could be a very interesting film, and thankfully I was able to see an advanced screening of this film because Netflix did provide it, and I was very excited for it. And I saw it, and I have to say, Tick, Tick, Boom is every bit as good as I really want it to be. This is such a beautiful and emotional film. It has all of the emotion and heartbreak that it really does need, but it also is just such an inspiring story to both artists and creators alike, and anyone that really has that desire to create. And it's nothing short of one of the best films of the year, but we're going to get into all of that right now, starting off with the cast. And when it comes to this film, I think that is one of the things that I was most excited for. I think everyone here just does such an amazing job. I don't really think there's anyone in this film that is giving a false performance. I think this film was perfectly cast overall, but my God, this film, there are a lot of things that really do work when it comes to this film, but one of the things this film is very much for is a acting showcase for just the masterful work that Andrew Garfield puts into this movie. And look, I've always known that Andrew Garfield can act. He's given amazing performances before, whether it's in Hacksaw Ridge, whether it's in Silence, which is a completely overlooked performance. More people need to see that film. More people need to talk about the film. He is truly amazing in that one. But I have to say, the performance he gives here as Jonathan Larson may just be his strongest yet, because just the amount of emotion that he pours into this role, you really do feel this connection that he has to Jonathan Larson. And I think that alone is enough a reason to really laud over this performance, and why I do think that he does have legitimate Oscar consideration here. But what really impresses me about this role is just the dedication that Garfield put into this. And a lot of people, I didn't know this, until watching other reviews, but they've talked about how, Andrew Garfield, he didn't know how to sing, he didn't know how to play piano, he had to teach himself all of that. And the fact that he wasn't a trained singer, and he didn't know how to do this stuff, and it turns out as well as it did here. His voice is absolutely incredible, is truly such a revelation to me. This movie really showcases different sides of Garfield that I don't think we've seen before. There's things that he's been able to do that I wish we could have seen. Like, I want to see Andrew Garfield, do more musicals, because he generally does have it in him. This is not one of those cases where this film is banking on name recognition and we have an actor that really can't sing, but because he's a talented actor, we're going to put him in this movie. No, Andrew Garfield absolutely kills it here. He hits every single note. He really just gives this film the effort that it does deserve. It does not feel like he is holding back in any regard whatsoever. He is always he is always so energetic and just so eager to play this role to the fullest of his ability, and I loved every single second of what he was doing. But there's also this authenticity and rawness that he really does bring to this role. He transforms into Jonathan Larson in a big way. You feel like there's this there is this there's this connection that Garfield had to Larson, and you really do feel that shine through in this movie. I truly do think this is one of the best performances, if not the best performance I've seen from him yet, and it definitely deserves all the awards love, for sure. When you connect to Jonathan Larson, you feel the passion that he really does have, but it also really, it really shines through when it comes to Garfield's performance, who I don't think he's ever quite been this good before. He's definitely given amazing performances, but the performance he gives in this movie really does feel like a performance that's going to put him in a different caliber than we already had him on. I generally think all of the Oscar buzz is very much warranted here. I really do hope that he does somehow get nominated. I think it would be a true injustice if he isn't at least nominated for this film, just because of the work that he put in it. There's a lot of reasons to watch this film, but I really do think Garfield's performance is a big reason for that, because he absolutely blew me away here. I already knew he had talent in him, but this film shows sides of him that I just did not know he had before, and he absolutely just nailed every single aspect of it here. But also really amazing in this movie, and someone that I also was really impressed by, was Robin DeJesus in this film. I saw him in a movie last year called The Boys in the Band, and I thought he was pretty good in that movie. But my God, he is incredible here. He plays Jonathan's best friend, Michael, who he's the complete opposite of him. He's way more successsú. He is way more, optimistic about life and things like that. But he also is going through his own struggles, and you really do feel connected to his character. I think, at first it seems like he's just going to be the typical best friend role. There isn't really going to be a lot here, but towards the third act of this movie, he has this monologue, and it generally almost brought me to tears. I really loved what he ended up bringing to this role. I think DeJesus really does show the potential he has as an actor, and I really hope after this movie he is able to get a lot more recognition, because he definitely does have it in him to be a really big to be a very successful actor. He shows the talent that he has, and I really love what he ended up bringing to this role. I think he was fantastic here. The rest of the cast also is really great. Vanessa Hudgens, a lot of people are raving about her, and she does give a very strong performance in this movie. I don't expect a lot from her, but she definitely does give a really strong performance here. There's a lot that is required out of her, and I was honestly blown away with how much she's doing. I want to see her do more stuff like this. Like, get away from those like princess switch and things like that. Do more stuff like this, because I feel like this is a film this is a performance that is very much playing to her strengths. Hudgens is a very talented actress. She's also a really great singer and entertainer overall, and this film really does showcase all of those abilities to the full extent that it can, and I think she really does kill it here. But Alexandra Shipp, I also thought was very strong here, playing the girlfriend of Jonathan Larson. I think she gave a really strong performance for sure. I really love Joshua Henry in this movie, but another person I have to highlight here is Bradley Whitford, who is playing the unfortunately now late Stephen Sondheim, and completely transforms into this role. Generally blew me away. This is not a huge role or anything, but every time he came on screen, I swore that it was actually Stephen Sondheim. I forgot that this was Bradley Whitford in the role. Just everything. When it comes to the essence of Sondheim, he just had it all down pat, and I was so impressed with everything that he ended up doing. It feels like he put a lot of effort and research into this character, and into, this genuine legend, and it very much did come through in that way. Just like I said, in terms of acting, everyone really does kill it here. I don't think there is a false performance in the bunch, and that is easily one of the best things about this entire movie. But now we really have to get to the directing here, which that is the other thing that I was most excited for. I mean, what an amazing year it has been for Lin-Manuel Miranda, between In the Heights finally becoming like a feature-length film and him being able to get that financed after all these years. He did Vivo on Netflix, which, okay, I wasn't the biggest fan of that, but a lot of people really did seem to love it, and, he got to show like his voice talents in that film, which was really great. He just did music for Encanto for Disney, which I will be reviewing very soon. And now in this film, he gets to showcase his ability as a director. And I have to say, this is a very strong directorial debut from Lin-Manuel Miranda. I might be a bit biased because I'm a huge fan of his, but I have to say, I really don't think I am, because what he provides to this film, I think even an experienced director would not be able to, because what Miranda really does here is he tries to look at this film from Larson's eyes. This film really does feel like it is both this sort of love letter to creators, but also this beautiful tribute to Jonathan Larson. You get the sense that Lin-Manuel Miranda always has had this respect for Larson. He really loves his story. He loves, the work that he really did achieve. And it's true that Jonathan Larson really did do a lot. And I think Miranda, really does pay his respects to him in a very nice way, but also the way he directs this movie. He has such an interesting way of staging things. This really does feel like the kind of director that took what you would see on the stage and found a way to apply it to film. This doesn't at all feel like a, stage to film type interpretation. This is wildly different in terms of what you normally see on the stage, and I really did appreciate that. He found a way to apply things that normally wouldn't work in a film like this, to it, and I think he did a really great job. You can tell that this is a film that's very much made for musical theater fans, and I think that's something that Miranda just did an excellent job with. His passion and enthusiasm, you really do feel it through and through, and honestly, I really did appreciate his vision to this movie. It's very distinctive. It's not going to be for everyone. I've seen a lot of people complain about how the directing, it just feels a little bit too amateur here, but I really did like the style that he brought to this movie. It's very different from what I've seen in other musical films, and I really do think it helps this film stick out overall. I really love what he ended up doing in terms of the directing here. There's a lot of stylistic choices, especially that I didn't even know if they were going to fully work, and then when I understood what he was trying to do, I'm like, that's brilliant. I love the way that he ended up framing that, and I just overall was a huge fan of his directing. I really do hope this I really do hope this showcases a new future for Miranda where he's able to direct more films, because I generally do think he has it in him, and I really do hope that he's able to take that away from this film, but we'll really just have to see. But I really did love his directing here overall. If this is the only film we get that he directed, this is definitely a great one and done, because he did such an amazing job directing this movie. But getting into the screenplay with this film, that's the other thing I think that a lot of people are really going to latch onto. I think the story here is very well done when it comes to Jonathan Larson. I knew who he was. I did. I know obviously that he's made Rent and things like that, but I didn't understand the true struggle that he undergoed as a writer, as this playwright of sorts. And, I think this film is really trying to show, that even the greatest of writers, they still very much do struggle. And you see a Jonathan Larson that he very much kind of wants to give up. He really is starting to doubt himself. He's not sure if he's going to be able to churn this out. He's not sure if writing is his true passion. And you see that this is someone that has dedicated their life so much to their work that everything else comes second. He really does feel like if he doesn't, write a play at a certain age, then his entire life is pretty much worthless. And that is a very extreme way to look at things, but it's so extreme, it feels like this is true. The movie says from the beginning, basically all of this happened except for a few things, and I very much do believe it. I believe that this is a story that did happen, that Jonathan Larson did generally struggle with becoming a writer. He wasn't sure if this was the right career path, but you really do latch onto him as a result. You want him to succeed. You want him to be able to continue doing what he's doing, but you also want him to venture away. He's made so many different plays. There's so many different passions that he's had, but he is so fixated on financing this one show that you really do start to see how everything else pretty much does get in the way of it. And the other thing that really does connect you to his character is that while Larson is someone that really hasn't had much success in his life, virtually everyone else around him is gaining success. Robin DeJesus's character Michael is this very successful, like commercial jingle producer. He finances a lot of commercials. He comes up with jingles and things like that. He's very good at that kind of thing. His girlfriend Susan is this dancer of sorts, and she's kind of in a crossroads in her life where she wants him to, where she has this sort of opportunity, and you sort of see him struggling with that as well. So it's not just that he wants to become successful, it's that he feels pressure because everyone else around him has this immense success, but also because it's the 90s, he also is feeling very he also is feeling very limited in that way. He feels like this isn't going to last forever when people around him are dying, when people around him are churning out this success. So you really do latch onto Jonathan as a result. You feel the passion he has for theater, but you also realize just how much this is consuming him, how fixated he is on making these things happen, and it makes him, I think, one of the most compelling characters of the entire year. And again, it feels like something that happens to a lot of people. The idea of writer's block especially is covered very well here. You really latch onto him as a character when it comes to that. This is an idea I'm sure many creators will latch onto. Anyone that's ever wanted to write, and it goes far beyond writing. If you want to direct, if you wanted to edit a movie, if you wanted to shoot something and you just felt like you couldn't do it, it feels so relatable in that way. And I think that's something that's going to appeal to a lot of people. So I don't think this is a movie that's only going to appeal to people that are into musical theater. I think if you've ever had a desire to create, Tick, Tick, Boom is really going to strike a chord with you because of that sort of existential crisis that Jonathan Larson is going through, really questioning, is this his path in life, or has it been completely wasteful? I think all of that is very well handled here, and I think they cover all of that very well. But the other characters in this movie as well, like I said, they're going through their own struggles. While Jonathan sees them as these people that are just constantly gaining success, you see there are other things going on within their lives, specifically when it comes to Alexandra Shipp's character. While she is gaining success as a dancer, you can see that her relationship with Jonathan isn't the best. They often will bicker a lot over his writing. He isn't someone that is, as dedicated to her as he should be, and I think they depicted that very well. The relationship struggles that these two have, all of that is very well handled here. There's one scene especially that generally blew me away with the way they decided to go about it. I thought that the storytelling was very brilliant there, and I think overall it is one of the most intimate choices that this movie has, and a film that has a lot of choices like that. I think this film does a great job, but like I also said, I think this film also works as a very good tribute to Jonathan Larson. It really does show the passion that he had and how he eventually did become that visionary. And if you don't know his story, it's that much more bittersweet when you realize what's really going on here, when you realize what actually, became of Jonathan Larson, how things turned out for him. It just overall adds to the emotional heft of this film. I think they did such an amazing job with that. And the contribution he was eventually able to make, it just feels so rewarding in that way. And I really loved everything in terms of the writing here. I think it was so well handled in that way. It's generally one of the best screenplays, I think, of the entire year. There's this one scene with him and Judith Light especially, and it really did get to me. I'm not someone that's like a huge creator, but I have had ideas. There's things that I've wanted to make and I've just kind of abandoned it and let it go. And just the general message of what we end up getting from in that scene, I just thought was generally just so well handled, and I think it's going to get to a lot of people. Anyone who, like I said, who has ever written before or struggled with writing or really questioned if this was something they wanted to do, I think that scene is really going to speak to them, and it's probably one of the standout scenes in the entire movie. I really love what they ended up doing there. So again, I think this is just as good of a commentary on writer's block and the desire to create as it is a really great musical and tribute to Jonathan Larson. I think it's able to handle both exceptionally. But the other thing that really just impressed me about this movie and really just was one of those things that generally blew me away, is the visual style to this film, which I'm going to say something that's unpopular here. Normally, the way this film is structured in terms of its cinematography and in terms of its musical numbers especially, usually doesn't work for me. I am not usually a fan of musical films that likes to set every single musical number as a set piece and likes to put it on a stage and puts it outside of like the general, like the reality of the film. Like say Chicago, for example. I don't really like the way that film structured musical numbers because I felt overall it just took you out of the story that's going on. It's a story that is very dark, and some of the darker elements especially, it just felt kind of tone deaf to me, and I'm just not a huge fan of that because of that. But it also feels very much like it is, it's the film like apologizing for being a musical, like it's trying to justify its existence for being one. But what this film decides to do, I thought worked really well, because you kind of do get this deep dive into Larson's head and how everything he sees is kind of like a musical. So whenever there's a musical number in this film, most of it, not all, but most of the performances are inside his head. They're not actually happening in real life. And I thought there was a really brilliant choice in this film. The blocking and things like that, it's very evocative, like I said, of films like Chicago or Cabaret. And while I think it's going to take some people out of the movie, I thought it was a really brilliant choice, and it really enhances the film because we really do get to see the way that Jonathan Larson saw the world. How would Jonathan Larson have depicted this if it was a musical number? You always kind of see the wheels turning in his head at any given moment. So it made sense, I think, to do it in this way. And I think overall, it really kind of takes on a whole different light in this very audacious manner. And I really appreciated the cinematography here. There's this whole other layer to the movie where the film is structured almost like this concert of sorts that Larson is giving about his life. And it's this concert he's doing with Vanessa Hudgens and with Joshua Henry. And I thought that was just such a brilliant choice because, again, it feels like this is how Larson would see things in this way, and I thought they did such an amazing job with that. So I really enjoyed the cinematography. But getting into the musical numbers here, all of them are absolutely incredible. I think all of the musical numbers, they provide the emotion that you want, but also are just such a delight throughout. I didn't really know most of this music going in, and I especially didn't know that virtually all of the music in this movie are songs that Larson never got to produce. He never got to show in the light that he wanted to, but it's like the body of work that he left behind, and I think there's something very admirable about that, and I think the way they're able to tie this in to the general story is really great. I really enjoyed all of the songs here. There's one especially called Sunday. It's this incredible set piece, and any theater lover, I mean, it is just going to absolutely just, it's going to be something that's going to stick in your mind for a while. In terms of fan service, you want to talk about fan service for a theater lover, I mean, it is generally one of the most insane things I've ever seen. I really love the way that it was put together. Just everything they did in terms of that, it just feels like it feels like any sort of theater fan's dream, especially if you're like a big like purist in terms of that. I think that is something that is very much going to, I think that's something that is very much going to please you, and I really enjoyed the way that whole scene was constructed. The opening number, 3090, is really great. I really loved this therapy sequence as well. One of the best moments of the entire movie is this sequence called Therapy. I can't say much more than that, but it's another thing that I didn't think was going to work, but it added this layer of darkness to the film that I thought worked out really well. The way that, again, I can't really get into it all that much. You really just kind of have to see it, but it is a very interesting choice, and I thought it worked out very well here. Like I said, it's not going to be for everyone, the choices that this movie does make, but I really do think all of these songs, added to the film. It added to the emotion. It added to the passion that Jonathan Larson had, but it also added to, the general story of what's going on. I thought they did an amazing job with that. The best song for me is this song called Why, which really explains why Jonathan Larson has that passion that he does, why he continues to create. It is just such a emotionally effective number, and I really loved it is just such a beautiful song, and it is probably my favorite of the ones in the movie. I haven't been able to stop listening to it for a while. In general, this is just a soundtrack that very much does deliver in that way. I think there are some absolutely incredible musical numbers here that you're not going to be able to get out of your head for a very long time. There's also so many just great musical references here that if you are a fan, you will very much understand them. A lot of the songs actually kind of feel like references to classic musicals or even Rent. Like, you can understand the inspiration, you can understand what eventually inspires Larson to do Rent, because some of the songs in this movie feel eeringly similar to that of Rent, and I thought they did a really strong job with that. There's a lot of moments in this movie where I was just kind of like, I know what they're talking about here, I know what they're doing here, so I think that's something else that people are going to have a really great time with. There's a lot of references you can pick out, and none of them feel like they're just here because we just want to cater to musical theater fans. Like, no, Jonathan Larson is a theater geek. This is something he structures his entire life around, so obviously he's going to pick out certain references. Obviously, he's going to bring up certain shows. Like, it makes sense in the general zeitgeist of the film, and I thought overall they did a really excellent job with that. And the editing to this film, I think that overall, I think that, the editing here, it's very interesting the way this film is structured. It's very frenetically paced in that way, very fast edited. There isn't a lot of slowness going on in this movie, and that could very much become disorienting for some people, but for me, I really enjoyed the approach to this film. I thought the frenetic pacing worked here very well. I was never bored with anything that was going on here. I thought overall the film was very well paced in that way, and so I don't really have any problems in terms of the editing. And the ending of this movie, oh my god, it's easily one of the most bittersweet endings of the entire year. I mean, I nearly cried when it came down to, again, just seeing this story, actually knowing, the journey that Jonathan Larson had, the way that it all ended. It just makes it that much sadder overall, but you also feel this immense success for him. It ends on this very, sort of inspiring note, and I really love the way they ended up wrapping things up here. It's this really beautiful tribute to Jonathan Larson overall, and I thought they did such an amazing job with that. Overall, Tick, Tick, Boom was pretty much everything that I really wanted it to be. This is such a different type of musical film. It's got such a standout performance from Andrew Garfield, which may just be the best of his entire career. Great performances from Robin DeJesus, Vanessa Hudgens, and Alexandra Shipp as well. I think they as well are enough of a reason to check out this film. A really standout directorial debut here from Lin-Manuel Miranda, which is this very sort of innovative and different feel to it that I think really adds to the film. It has the emotion that you really want it to have. It works as a very beautiful tribute to Jonathan Larson, but it's got some very interesting choices in terms of cinematography. The musical numbers really do, there's some really catchy musical numbers, really packs an emotional punch in the end. It's not going to be for everyone, I think, with some of its choices in terms of its structure, but overall, for me, this was everything I really could have hoped for. A lot of people are saying that West Side Story is going to be this awards darling. It's going to be the big musical that is going to be this major Oscar contender, and everyone's really going to love it, which it very much could. I mean, especially from the early reviews, I could very well see that. But I would really challenge them to also throw in Tick, Tick, Boom, because I really do think this film is something special. It's a film that's made for theater lovers by theater lovers, but I also think it very much is an ode to creators and anyone who's ever had that desire to write or direct or anything like that. This film really does scratch that itch very well. It's an inspiring, emotional, and generally very beautiful film that I do think turned out in the best possible way that it could. Like I said, this has been such an amazing year for musicals, but I truly do think Tick, Tick, Boom still finds a way to really stick out as one of the very best for sure. It is absolutely one of the best of the entire year, and I'm definitely going to give Tick, Tick, Boom overall an A. But overall, guys, so my review of Tick, Tick, Boom. Let me know if you guys saw this movie. I'll lift your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.